Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. In a rare move, President Biden paid a visit to lawmakers on Capitol Hill as a Hail Mary effort to salvage his economic agenda. The president spent close to an hour on the Hill in an attempt to calm tensions between moderates and progressives who are still miles apart on the administration's infrastructure and reconciliation bills. The president's visit comes after Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi promised a vote on both bills but failed to reach a deal with lawmakers to move Biden's agenda forward. The delayed vote signals a victory for progressives who, at the moment, have seemingly held the line on their stance to not vote on the infrastructure bill without a commitment on the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. The delayed vote also represents the growing power of progressives within the Democratic Party, and it is a solidarity that moderates may eventually be forced to concede to. But despite progressives wielding their collective power, reports of a $2.1 trillion compromise has been floated among Democratic leaders. It's a compromise that Senator Joe Manchin still is not on board with. So even with a proposed compromise, President Biden is stuck between progressives who have shown the ability to band together as a voting bloc and moderates who will be crucial in the party's success in the 2022 midterms. President Biden's behind closed door style of deal making is and has been up to this point just not working. Perhaps his visit to the Hill heralds a new approach of more engaged diplomacy. Perhaps now, in the last moments, he's ready to put more skin in the game to get the deal done. Joining me to discuss is Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at Cal State Los Angeles, Julianne Malveaux, and Democratic strategist Bre Maxwell. So, Julianne, where are we? I mean, this is very confusing. I mean, if people who are not kind of intimately involved with Washington, the jostling back and forth, we have a vote, we're not going to have a vote, we don't know, we can't tell you to the last minute, and we start over the next day as if the previous day never even happened. So where are we in the negotiation? Is this just how things work on the Hill, and this is how deals are made?
This is how things work on the Hill and how deals are made. This is how it's always been. You've got a continuum of political positions. You've got the progressives, and I put quotes around that. You've got the very conservative, and in the middle you have moderates. I think that the progressives wing has gotten larger, and they become more vocal. They're younger. They're not bowing down to Congressman Clyburn, to Speaker Pelosi. They want what they want. What they want actually is what Americans want, but there are obstacles. And that's why President Biden went up to the Hill today, because he understands what the obstacles are. He didn't want to twist arms, but I do think that he wants to persuade the progressives to give a little. And what many people are saying, progressives and others, is we have been given. I mean, if you were at, Charles, I don't know if you were there, but at the March on Washington on August 28th, when little Tamika Mallory, lovely young woman, brilliant, said, y'all just do your job. I don't want to talk about this or that. I want to talk about you doing your job. From her perspective, from many young people's perspective, this Congress is not doing their job.
So, Bre, up to the point that you actually have to vote, everything feels like posturing. I can say, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to hold fast on that. When a vote comes, you have to you have to really take a stand. And what Biden was going up to the Hill today to do was to say, look me in my face and tell me that you will not take $1.5 trillion. Tell me you will not take $2.1 trillion to my face. I mean, how much pressure are these lawmakers on, even if fundamentally they believe on principle that it's just not big enough? Can they withstand the pressure of the president saying, if you tank this, we are all going home?
You know what, Charles? Absolutely not. The funny thing is, what the progressives are asking for is correct what the doctor just said. This is what the American people want, and it's also what the American people need. But what we have to realize, and what Congress needs to realize right now, is we need the art of the compromise. The only way we're going to be able to get any of these bills passed at this moment is if we compromise. Yes, we need an infrastructure bill to take care of all these roads and bridges and making sure that American citizens have broadband access, making sure that rural America has broadband access. But we also need to make sure that we have expansion of Medicaid, universal pre-care, and make sure that we are fighting the climate change crisis that we have right now. So I think what the progressives are doing is great, is the epitome of politics, but we also need to realize that we have to compromise. And if it's one thing that Congressman Clyburn taught me when I worked for him, is you have to be able to put some skin in the game. So right now, it may be the moderates that got to figure out how to put some more skin in the game, because the progressives are not backing down.
Well, they need to, Bre. They need to. I mean, at the end of the day, the challenge is that the progressives have taken a hard line that, to me, is untenable. You can't say my way or no way. That's not how politics works. You work for Congressman Clyburn, who was a master politician. A master politician understands how you basically
but Julianne, let me just interrupt 1 second. Isn't that exactly, what Manchin is saying? My way or the highway? I mean, the question becomes, does Manchin get to call the shots and not bend, and demand that progressives don't call the shots and they must bend? I mean, that's the fundamental question in this battle.
Right. I mean, if it was not your show, I would say, oh, hell no. But I don't want to cuss on your show. But Manchin is out of line, out of order, out of control. He comes from the poorest state, one of the poorest states in the country, where infrastructure legislation helps him. So he's really spitting in the face of his own constituents when he says that he's not going to move. He is wrong. He's more than wrong. But no one seems to, his own constituents won't call him on it. And that's a problem. What do people in West Virginia think? Are they going to call him on his stuff? Because they must. And if they don't, what they've got is a rogue legislator who's more about his ego than about his people.
And I agree with you, Doctor.
So let's just talk about the politics of this. 1 second. Okay. One second, Bre. Let's just talk about the politics of this. Manchin, his state went for Donald Trump by massive margins. He has nothing to lose politically by saying no to this money, even though it hurts his states, as Julianne just pointed out. It hurts his state, hurts his constituents. But they are not punishing him enough. I keep watching the polls in West Virginia. They tick down a little bit, but there's no massive turning on Joe Manchin. Kristen Sinema is unlikely to be returning to the Senate, right? So, but on the Democratic side, on the progressive side, can they really go home and say, I turned down trillions of dollars because it just wasn't big enough? I'm just trying to figure out, on the political side, who is most hurt by saying, I refuse to go along with the president?
On the political side, it's the constituents. It's absolutely constituents. I believe today on Twitter, Representative Bowman was saying that there's no reason to campaign on a certain issue and not govern on those same issues. So, I mean, that's basically what the progressives are doing. They campaign on expansion of Medicaid, climate change, and they're holding the line on that. But who it is affecting are the citizens back home, the constituents back home. And it goes back to what I said before. They have to figure out how to compromise, because October 18th is coming sooner than later, and we have to get these bills passed. So we have to figure out how to put them all into one bill with one price tag that we can all accept and move on, so we can make sure that we are taking care of our constituents back home in our states.
But Julianne, speaking of price tags, they can't agree on a price tag. Manchin has not budged, not one bit. I mean, not as of tonight. Maybe he'll budge tomorrow. But as of tonight, Manchin has said 1.5 is my top line. I'm done. And he's been saying that for months. He's, basically said a month ago or so ago on CNN that, we spent a lot of money during the pandemic for that relief. And so you add all that together, we've spent a lot of money. And so I don't want to go over 1.5. He's not moving. So if they can't even agree on a number, let alone what the progressives are demanding, which is you have to agree on some bedrock language that reassures us that we're going to get something with a number, but also many of the programs that Bre was just talking about. How do you move forward if they don't have that?
Well, they have to move forward. They have to figure it out because, first of all, that they passed legislation to suspend the debt ceiling until December. So that's 2 months. Give me a break. I mean, so we're going to be in this whole quagmire for the next 2 months. In addition to that, part of the Biden economic plan is about human services infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure. We usually see infrastructure as bridges and roads, but what the president has been saying is that we also have to look at child care, elder care, and all those things. And of course, Mr. Manchin is not feeling it. Somehow people have to figure out how to move ahead. I think it's beyond Charles, either of our pay grades or Bre's, how they do this. But here's the bottom line. If this does not happen, the Biden agenda tanks. And so somebody on the R side or somebody somewhere has to have the kind of political courage to say, I'm prepared to go out on a limb. Right now, we haven't seen it. Even Mitt Romney, who sometimes we count on to be somewhat reasonable, not super reasonable, he's a Mormon, but somewhat reasonable, he's backed up. So it seems like we're in a stalemate, and I'm not sure how we get out of it. But I think we have to, because we can't close government down. We really can't. That does not neither side any good. It doesn't do Dems any good, but it doesn't do Republicans any good either. So that's the leverage to bring people to the table.
All right, Democrats, you've heard Julianne Malveaux here tonight. She doesn't know how you're going to do it, but you have to do it, right? Julianne is drawing a line in the sand of her own. Julianne Malveaux and Bre Maxwell, thank you both for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.